Hello and welcome back to the first emergency podcast episode of the season, the first in 2 years, if I remember correctly. And gentlemen, this is some big news breaking out of TAPS Division 3, some news that everyone has seen on the horizon regarding Holy Cross of San Antonio, the state finalists last year, and looking to be on the same trajectory this year, although this news might change some of those opinions. As we know, Holy Cross was alleged that they had been using player to coach communication via an in helmet communication device to essentially relay information from the sideline or wherever else to the quarterback's helmet. That has been reviewed by TAPS. They've officially announced their sanctions or punishment or whatever you want to call it against Holy Cross. What we're going to do right now, as we mentioned, we were going to wait until we got all the information on this subject and then give you the facts and some light opinions regarding that. But first, the facts of the matter. The biggest thing regarding this, Holy Cross will be eligible for the postseason. That's big. That was one of the things on the table. Were the Knights going to be able to play come October and November? They will be playoff eligible. In terms of the games they played thus far, we are unsure at this time relative to whether they're going to forfeit their non-district games. Ultimately, that does not matter. What does matter is they're going to forfeit their district contest against New Braunfels Christian and Bernie Geneva. That's big. Those are the two biggest players in the division outside of Holy Cross, which means they're likely going to finish third in the division. Head coach Mike Harrison has been suspended for the rest of the regular season, as has offensive coordinator Roy Salas. They will be back for the postseason, so that is essentially what a 1, 2, 3 game ban for those characters. We don't know who's going to take over in that time. They've got a lot of NFL coaches on staff. They should be fine. It's going to be interesting. Those are the facts that I have in front of me. Walker Lott, I'm going to pan to you now because I know there's been a lot of talk around the division and a lot of the teams, obviously, that have played Holy Cross while they've been allegedly using this device wanted to see some sort of sanction handed down. Well, we saw something handed down. Just some quick opinions based on what we have regarding the situation.
Yeah, this is a crazy thing. I just wanted to kind of read the two bylaws that are very specific about this because we wanted to pull them up and make sure like this is what TAPS is saying. This is official from the TAPS rules where in 22.1-4-11-A, gosh, that is being specific now. Teams are allowed to use video and data technology, computers, tablets, iPads, smartphones, and similar handheld devices during the game and during halftime. The use of technology will be allowed on the sidelines in team personnel designated areas, the press box locker room. The game officials will not be responsible for the enforcement, but will report a suspected violation to TAPS. In addition, any personnel engages an official with any video technology and unsportsmanlike conduct foul shall result. That is basically like watching film as it's going on. That's basically what that is going to be all about, right? Where you can watch film, make sure you're doing the right thing from what the game is going on. That's what's been in thing and in games for the past couple of years. This is the interesting thing. 23.1-4-11.b. Coach to player communication in any form is prohibited for TAPS member school teams. This is now in red, which I don't know if it was in the past, but it is now. Making sure people understand that this is the big thing, right? The second bylaw we need to worry about is in the TAPS official bylaws, which is during in the district schedules section of what section one in section 138 of the bylaws under schedules and under district schedules underneath that it says and C in point three under C, if a school forfeits a district game and does not play that game, A, the forfeiting school shall not be eligible for the playoffs.
3D now under that same section if the game is played and later ordered to be forfeited by the district executive committee, or if the school willingly forfeits the game after discovering an ineligible player or some other rule violation, the team is not automatically removed from the playoffs. So
Um,
it says that in D specifically of
yeah,
that one. So I think they're basically saying, yeah, like Wes said, if you choose not to play a game just because you don't want to play a certain team, like, yeah, no, you're not going to be able to play in the playoffs. But D says if a ruling was to come after a game is already played, that team isn't exclusively removed from the playoffs. Now, could they be removed from the playoffs? Yeah. So it technically still was up to Txps' discretion whether they wanted to remove them from the playoffs. And clearly, Txps decided that they did not want to remove Holy Cross from the playoffs.
Hello, everyone. I'm cutting in right here because I wanted to mention something. We talked a lot about the playoff matchups that would happen because of in the playoff seeding because of this ruling. And then, of course, right after we record this, Taps drops the brand new updated Taps Division 3 playoff bracket, which changes a lot of different things, where a lot of matchups are in different places on the brackets, and where seeding is way different in certain parts of the bracket, of course. What's different about the bracket this year is that the number one seeds are on different sides of the bracket this year, where 1-1 of District 1 is on the left side of the bracket, and 2-1 is now on the other side of the bracket with 3-1. We will talk more about the playoff implications in the brackets later, but the biggest thing about it now is that there is a difference of where Holy Cross will now end up on the bracket, and it pretty much is solidified to this point. Both spots of District 3-3 and District 3-4, both those spots in that district are on the left side of the bracket with District 1's 1 spot, which and how it's going right now looks like the favorite is going to be Lubbock Christian on that side of the bracket. With how it is set up, if Holy Cross forfeits all the games previously of New Braunfels and Geneva, those wins would go to those two schools and the losses would be counted on Holy Cross's record, which as of Tuesday, October 14th, it would be New Braunfels 2-1, Geneva 2-1, Hale Country Christian 1-0, and Holy Cross at 1-2. With all of those being how it is, that would pretty much mean that Holy Cross would end up in that third place spot with the win over Hill Country Christian. That would put Holy Cross in that third spot and play District 1-4, and then play probably the favorite in District 1, Lubbock Christian, in the second round, which would be crazy. On the flip side, Dallas Christian, who's the probable favorite in District 2, is now not on the same bracket side of Holy Cross. They would now be on the side of probably the new favorite in that District 3, New Braunfels Christian. In reality, if Hill Country Christian beats Geneva this week, Hill Country could have a chance to be 4-1 and the number one team in that district. Then it would be New Braunfels Christian, Geneva, and then Holy Cross in that 3-4 spot, still making Holy Cross and a fourth place team on the left side of the bracket with the Lubbock Christian side. That is where it gets interesting. Just Hill Country got a little bit screwed over because they don't get the automatic win against Holy Cross amongst the top four teams in that district. So they basically have to win out or only lose to Holy Cross, and they will still be the probable favorite for that 1 seed. So interesting to watch there for district play. In summary, because of the new bracket change in TAPS Division 3, Lubbock Christian and Dallas Christian, as the favorites in their respective districts, are on separate sides of the bracket. And Holy Cross in that third or fourth spot in district, where the losses have affected them, are going to be on the Lubbock Christian side of the bracket. So a team in Mesquite is very happy, and a team in Lubbock is not too happy right now. Very interesting to see how that pans out. Hill Country Christian is the team to watch in this, where they can cause the most chaos in District 3, or everything stays the same and it gets a little bit less interesting. We will talk more about the actual playoff implications, the playoff seeding as time goes on, but for right now, those are the big storylines to tell, and how we did not know some of these things when talking about it. So as will tell in the rest of the episode, we go off the prior bias as Lubbock Christian and DC are on one side of the bracket with that number third spot. That is not the case anymore. So that is interesting to watch. So back to the episode. Now the question is this enough punishment? That's going to be the question. Playoff eligible Holy Cross doesn't change too much. It just changes on what side of the bracket they're on, right? The penalty is interesting because it's basically it's week 8. Yeah, it's week 8. It's a 4-week suspension, and that's basically it, right? Because Harrison and Silas are back for playoffs. They will be in the playoffs. It's a 4-week suspension for pretty much breaking a wild rule, in my opinion. I think it changes games. It truly changes games. And I think at the end of the day, That's the biggest part, right? Where you can be on the microphone or communicate to your quarterback at close to the literal snap of the football, exactly where you want him to throw the ball, reading the coverage from the up in the box. That changes everything about a football game. In the NCAA, right? You can hear the guy, but it cuts off at a specific time before the
Right.
snap, so
Right.
they have to make the adjustments themselves. That's literally putting in like that's blatant cheating, to be honest, right? You're telling where your quarterback is the exact best place to throw on a football field.
No,
No defense can counteract that. So I
no.
think that's a blatant thing they need to figure out. And I think penalizing them for 4 weeks and then all right, everything's back to normal is kind of crazy.
Uh,
Here's what I'll say quickly is that just to play devil's advocate, we don't know that that's what was being done. We don't know if
exactly.
it was just
Yeah.
that or communicating
Yeah.
plays. Again, what Walker's saying is you could easily do that, and that's the impetus here. Is that if that possibility is there, then yeah, it
Yes.
should be punished as
Yeah.
it should be. We're trying to be as neutral as possible just because we don't know the exact intents of all of this. But that being said, I agree that there's a level of punishment that's needed. I do think, from a punishment standpoint, obviously all that matters for playoffs is the district games, so that'll get cleaned out. For this season, any game that was played with that, it needs to be a forfeit. So Central Catholic should be forfeited as well. Weimer. That being said, is on a weird flip side, this also punishes Dallas Christian and Lubbock Christian as well, because Holy
Yeah.
Cross clearly a much better team than New Braunfels and Geneva. And you got to believe you're sitting in Mesquite and you're like, well, this sucks. Now we're going to play Holy Cross, a state final level team, in the second round. I mean, I know that's what people from DC are literally verbalizing to us as well as I wear my Dallas Christian shirt. But this doesn't just touch San Antonio or just the South of Division Three. It changes the entire landscape of who we might see in Waco. Ryan Schroeder, I'm curious as well as we start to wind down commentary on this issue, where we land right now regarding this in terms of the severity of punishment, the shape of the playoff picture, what this means for Holy Cross and teams beyond. Where are we at right now with this?
I'm going to touch your point on the playoff structure specifically. I think I said this maybe on the recap or maybe on the space and stuff, but like you have to run into teams eventually, right? Like you have to run into teams eventually. That's the whole conversation we have in D4 about like, well, when are you going to run into First Baptist? Well, you have to run into First Baptist, right? It's the same thing in D3 too. Like you're going to have to run into Holy Cross. You're going to have to run into one of these teams. Obviously, on the biggest stage, there's more nerves, there's more whatever. Like I get all of that too, but like I just I don't want to put so much emphasis into like, well, now we have to play Holy Cross second round because like you're always going to have to face them if they were the team that was good enough to make the state championship, which they've shown so far. Um, Broader scope here. I will say just one thing is like you're not going to ruin players' careers and stuff, high school careers. I get that, but I do think like just coaches being suspended too and stuff like you're obviously not going to like you're not gonna suspend a quarterback. I get that, right? I get it, right? Like because technically his coaches are the ones that are enforcing that or whatever. But like Rocky's the one that was had it in his ear, right? You know what I'm saying, or what? Whoever else on the defensive side that may have had it too, or whatever. Like that. Okay, that's another point too. Like, was there anyone else on the field that had it as well? Right? Like, I don't know. I just there's so many question marks, right? Like I think you could admit to that too, Wes. Like there's so many question marks of who all could have been using it, what all could have been used for. Was it in play? Was it not in play?
And that's just the whole thing is, even if you look at this in the best light for Holy Cross, even if you're like, okay, well, like, yeah, which is hard for me to imagine that you wouldn't know that's in the bylaws. And maybe from what we've heard, they assume that TAPS was going to follow UIL in a certain extent and take it away. Even in the best possible light, you're operating in a gray area and you know that there's going to be a heavy hand that comes
Right.
down if something like this happens. It just doesn't make sense to me, especially for a team in Holy Cross that's going to beat these teams with or without that. I mean, it is
Yeah.
what it is. I'm not going to comment further on the severity of the punishment because I'm not the one that makes those rules. Punishment was doled out. Whether it was enough is a matter of judgment. But all Holy Cross can do from this point is go out, try and beat First Baptist next week, and continue the rest of their slate. It's going to be interesting. It shakes a lot of stuff up. Walker, lot. You've been doing a lot of the legwork and looking into this. Before we get out of here, just for something that shakes up the entire sport, your closing comments.
Yeah, we'll have a more of a detailed report than our just live reactions to this soon. We're going to be looking into this a little bit more, which is going to be interesting to see everything that comes out. I just think this is a crazy thing that didn't need to happen, but did. And I think honestly, Taps Division 3 was more affected by it than Holy Cross themselves. And I think that is the biggest takeaway from it. And that being absolutely real, the team that cheated didn't really get as punished as the people around him. And I think that's going to be the interesting part about this.
I think it's a great way to put it, and I can't place it any better way. With that being said, really, I mean, not a fun time, but very interesting to bring back our first emergency podcast in 2 years. It's always interesting for us because I don't want to say fun again to kind of have a live knee-jerk reaction to something big that happens in the sport. As Walker said, we're going to have a more detailed analysis when this comes out, and just getting some opinions and more facts based on the situation to let you know where everything's heading. But as always, for Walker Lott, for Ryan Schroeder, I'm Wes Tolleson. This has been the emergency podcast edition of the Texas Private School Podcast, and we will see you in the next one. See you later.